We've got a great program scheduled for September, and we're off to a great start with the New Jersey Jazz Society. So first, I'd like to introduce Cydney Halpin. She is the president of the New Jersey Jazz Society. She's been a member for the last 5 years. She's been president for the last 2.5 years. She had a 30-year career in marketing and public relations. She's a cabaret and jazz performer, performing with such jazz greats as Bucky Pizzarelli, Les Paul, and Marilyn May. So Cydney, I've got a little jazz question for you, if that's all right.
Okay, we'll try it.
So Saturday was an important anniversary in jazz. 100?
Oh, it's Bird? Wasn't it Bird's 100th birthday?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. Phew, got it right.
So Bird is Charlie Parker, right?
Yes.
Famous jazz musician. So with a little hint, you did fine.
Great.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you introduce our performer. And
Great.
by the way, we will not have any questions and answers at the end. We've taken up too much time on the front end, and we would prefer to hear your guest play.
Great. We'll, I think we'll have a nice combination of both. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for having us today. And thank you, Alan, for thinking of me. And thank you, Paul, for making it very easy to be a part of this. You guys have really shown that you can teach old dogs new tricks, right? You guys adjusted so quickly to the Zoom world. I really applaud you for that. I think it's the wave of the future for a lot of reasons, but number one, certainly for health reasons now, but I think people are gonna find that, you know, it's spurred creativity. It's pushing us to do things we weren't necessarily doing before, which I think is really actually a good thing, as long as you're safe and healthy doing it. So thank you. A little bit of background on the New Jersey Jazz Society. I can't see a ton of you, but I know there's one member of the Jazz Society in the audience. Are there any other members of the Jazz Society? Raise your hand.
Raise your hand if you're a member.
Yep, Alan, okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for being a member. By the end, maybe some more of you will wish to be members as well. The Jazz Society is a 48-year-old organization. Really, it's closer to 50 years, but it was originated by a gentleman named Jack Stein. Jack Stein was a friend of a clarinetist of the day, a man by the name of Pee Wee Russell. Google him if you don't know who Pee Wee was. Pee Wee and Jack were very good friends, and there was a concert planned, and unfortunately Pee Wee died before he could participate in the concert. So Jack, being the promoter that he was up until his death 2 years ago, he went ahead and had the concert, and he decided that the proceeds from that concert would go for a scholarship. At the time, it was for a scholarship for a high school student. Pee Wee did not have children, and he always felt badly that he wasn't leaving a jazz legacy to a child, to his own child. So Jack thought it fitting that the $3,000 raised from that concert, which you got to remember, this is 1970, $3,000 was a lot of money. So Jack decided to promote and support young talent. That was the beginning of our scholarship programs. And today, the Jazz Society sponsors 5 scholarships annually to Montclair, William Patterson, Rutgers, New Jersey City, and Rowan universities. Now, just keep in mind that a jazz education in today's dollars costs on average about $65,000. So I was speaking to the new head of programming, the new director for the Montclair State program, a man named Oscar Perez, and Oscar was saying to me, Cydney, you know, because I had lamented to Oscar, I wish we had more money. I wish we had more funds to do more scholarship work. And Oscar said to me, Cydney, you know, you have no idea. A scholarship for a jazz musician can mean the difference of them not having to have a job during the semester, or them only having to have one job during the semester to be able to make their tuition. So I'm very, very proud of the work that the Jazz Society does with our scholarship program. And I wanted to share with you a quote that happens to be on William Patterson's website for incoming or potential jazz students. It says, in addition to being musically talented, a student who enters a jazz major program must be highly motivated, independent, and above all, flexible. And I think that these are key attributes for, I mean, look at what we're all doing right now, right? We're trying to be flexible in surviving a pandemic that nobody expected. You know, maybe some jazz students have a leg up on us than what we think. Our scholarship program, we put a concert together every spring, and those musicians, it could be anywhere from 5 to 10 musicians, they get together. Now, remember, these are, chances are, students that have not played with each other necessarily throughout their 4 years. We put a combo, what we call a combo together, and that combo does a presentation which has been held at Shanghai Jazz in Madison. And if you don't know the Jazz Club Shanghai Jazz in Madison, you are missing out on one of the region's greatest jazz assets. But, you know, imagine being a student, you've never played with these peers, and you're just expected to play a professional caliber performance. You know, that's what is so exciting about jazz, is that when you bring these musicians up, they are capable of being thrown into any event, any environment, and they can really produce some pretty incredible music. So I'm going to say right here, right now, if anyone wants more information about our scholarship program, would like to donate to our scholarship program, has some suggestions for our scholarship program, please consult our website, njjs.org, or please send me a private email to pres, P-R-E-S, @njjs.org, and I'll be happy to assist you. Excuse me. Excuse me. Our website, sorry, our website is also able to take donations at this present time. Again, njjs.org. So, show of hands, how many of you have ever taken music lessons? Show of hands. Oh, quite a few of you. Okay, studies repeatedly show that children who participate in music programs, and I don't mean they have to become Beethovens or, you know, virtuosos, but children that participate in music programs time and time again do better academically. They excel in academics far greater to those children that do not participate in music programs. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk about this amazing young lady that is with us today, who truly embodies, well, she's more special than most, but she truly embodies what it means to be able to excel in life, and certainly having been exposed to incredible music. But there are 7 attributes that I just want us to take a quick look at that show how children that participate in music excel. Number 1, it helps to improve their brain power. The part of the brain that's responsible for, that deals with music, is also the same part of the brain that's responsible for reading, math, and emotional development. So right there, we're already giving kids a leg up. Number 2, it helps to develop social skills. Number 3, it helps develop confidence. Number 4, it inspires creativity. Number 5, it teaches patience. 6, it's a great form of personal expression. And number 7, it teaches discipline, all of which are clearly attributes that would make for better citizens. I would posit there's probably a number 8, and that's that it allows for a much more worldly view, depending upon the type of music that children are exposed to. You know, they're getting a whole cultural experience along with it. So I can't say enough about how important it is to have music. And, you know, every time I hear that funding is being cut yet again to music programs, I just weep, because we are doing our society no favors by not having children exposed to the arts. Excuse me. So I am no jazz scholar. What I am is I refer to myself as a jazz cheerleader. I have certainly been able to be a participant in the jazz world, but I would recommend that if, for those of you, because I think we have some scientists and mathematicians and policymakers and whatnot in your mix just by listening to the beginning of your meeting. If anyone wants to have a real 101 lesson on jazz, if you don't feel that you're that familiar, I recommend a book called The History of Jazz by a gentleman named Ted. Now it's pronounced Hoya, but it's G-I-O-I-A, Ted Hoya. It's an amazing book called The History of Jazz. It'll give you a nice primer on the beginning, how it started, all through the different periods, different types of styles, all that. We are not going to deal with that today because I want to get to what I think is the really exciting part of jazz, not to denounce the history of it, but I want it to be the live art form of jazz. So Leonieke and I decided that we were talking and, you know, how could we best present a program to you guys today that really kind of boils down the essence of jazz. And I just want to give you a little bit of what I believe my interpretation for the boiling down of jazz is before I introduce our star for the day. Jazz has at its roots, it's always been a fusion of musical styles. It's been a reflection of its time and within its historical context, but more so it's a living, breathing, forward-thinking, innovating, and evolving art form. It is constantly moving while it carries with it its past. Jazz is an art form uniquely American, and it has its roots in community. You can't talk about jazz and you can't talk about it as an American art form unless you talk about it being born out of the, you know, roots of slavery in this country. It was a form of communication. Jazz is at its probably simplest a form of communication. And the key is, you know, what does it want to communicate? Jazz, I want everyone to really understand this. Jazz was one of the first art forms that integrated the bandstand. The bandstand was integrated long before persons of color could, you know, eat in a restaurant or sleep in the same hotel that the concert might have been taking place in. But the jazz community, those persons, the jazz musicians themselves, you know, there were no barriers to entry. The only barrier to entry in jazz was if you were a, you know, cool cat, if you were a good musician, if you could hold your own on the bandstand. And I really think that there's a huge life lesson in that. You know, you show up prepared, and you show up prepared to have a great time and to present a great program. And the rest of it is all nonsense. It doesn't matter. One of the things that jazz has always been is it's a mashup. It's a mashup of styles. It's a mashup of ideas. It's a mashup of attitudes. It's really a collaborative art form. And yes, there's going to be the player that's a solo player within the context of an ensemble. I don't think any of us have ever been to a jazz concert unless it's a pianist, but think of any other instrument. You don't go to a concert and only see a bassist standing on the bandstand. You don't go and listen to solely a saxophone player on the bandstand. So it's truly a collaborative art. And within that collaboration, there's always been this amazing historical presence of the mentor. You know, the older generation brings up the younger generation. You know, one of the things that we do at the Jazz Society, and that I hope we do, and we really focus on, is, You know, how do we mentor? How do we provide platforms for younger musicians? And certainly for seasoned musicians as well. But, you know, how do we bring up our young folks within this historical context, and yet providing platforms for growth and development to create their own kinds of music within the jazz framework? You know, jazz truly does have something for everybody. If somebody tells me they hate jazz, I absolutely can't believe them, because there is some form of jazz that everybody likes. You know, the person that tells me they hate jazz, and then you remind them, but do you hate songbook? Do you hate Frank Sinatra? You might dislike fusion. I myself have a hard time with fusion. It really messes with my heart rhythms, but you don't hate jazz. And I think, you know, we have to remind ourselves that jazz is an open art form. It's an evolving art form, and there truly is something for everybody in it. It's very ageless. On Sunday, Leonieke and I, we were in her backyard, and she was having a jam session with some very seasoned, fine musicians, one of which is her father, another one by the name, a guitarist by the name of Flip Peters, and then there was a bassist, a gentleman named Bill Crow. Again, I would beg you to Google Bill Crow if you don't know who he is, and buy his books. You will learn more about the world of jazz reading his book than any, you know, anybody could tell you. He's a living, breathing historian. Bill is 92 years old, and interesting, when you guys all answered how you're doing during COVID, I asked Bill how he's been doing, and he said, it's lonesome. And it really broke my heart, because Bill lost his wife a little over a year ago, and I know, and he lives, you know, kind of removed from a lot of people that might know him and love him. But, you know, just having him there and having him tell stories and tell jokes. When we were leaving, I said to Leonieke, I said, you know, you're off to college, but you've already had a college education before you get started. You know, just listening to Bill's oral history about the players and people that have gone before me, is extraordinary. And she says, yeah, I wish we had more time just to listen to his stories. And I'm inclined to agree. You know, his musicianship is beyond superb, and his ability to work with young and old is fantastic. But it's his place in history, and that we still have him as a talisman is really amazing. Again, Bill Crow, please look him up. Lastly,
can we get on with the program, perhaps? I know you have a few things to say, but I think we all love to hear.
Alan, we have 30 minutes of music planned, and that should take us right to your 11:30.
All right, thank you.
So lastly, I just want to mention that the goal for jazz has always been creating something that's innovative and something that's new. So to that point, this is why I brought Leonieke with me today. There was a gentleman named Don Cherry. Don Cherry was a saxophonist in the 50s and 60s, and he talks about when people believe in boundaries, they become part of them. And I just think that's amazingly profound if we don't allow ourselves to think and to innovate and to do something new. So to that point, when I was doing the background for this, I went on Leonike's website, and she does a marvelous TED Talk on there. Again, I would encourage you to check out her website. I believe Paul is going to send out, or perhaps already has sent out, an email that has the correct spelling of her name and her website address in there. But anyway, she did a TED Talk about 4 years ago. Now, in case I buried the lead here, this woman today, she's 18 years old. She's a freshman, just started her freshman year at William Patterson, but she's been a professional musician since the age of 14. I first met her when she was 14. She was receiving an award for being an outstanding up-and-coming musician. And, you know, I've just been so delighted with her ever since. There was a gentleman named Harold Mayborn who was a fantastic professor at Montclair. No, excuse me, at William Patterson, and he passed away last year. And so the question was posed to him, is Leonieke on the right track? And his response was, she is the track. And I'm inclined to agree with him on this one. So I was listening to her TED Talk, and I just want to pull something out of it that she said herself 4 years ago. She said, we as children are natural improvisers of life. We adapt to all situations with a natural curiosity and creativity. It's been my observation that adults, as they tend to grow up, lose their innate curiosity and their creativity. I believe we need to bring that back in order to be innovative. Now, this is 4 years ago she was talking about this. A little bit more background on Leo. She has been playing the piano since she was, what, 4 or 5? Maybe she'll tell us. But she watched the movie Ray, the movie about Ray Charles. And she watched it over and over again, and she was maybe 3 or 4 years old. Clearly, she didn't know what the subject matter was, but she loved the music. So at the end of that time of watching that movie, she went over to the piano and started playing by ear. She was able to play the pieces that she'd heard in the movie by ear because she's one of those really, really special people that, you know, touched by God, if you ask me. So I asked Leonieke to do a program today that showed you how innovative jazz truly is, shows you mashups of styles, and brings you into understanding that, you know, no jazz musician grows up to want to emulate somebody else. They bring with them the talents and the joy and the lessons learned from those people, and they apply them to how they play their instrument, whether it's piano, voice, saxophone, whatever. So I'm going to turn it over to Leonieke, and I'm going to ask her to, she'll talk to you a little bit between her pieces, but I think you are going to agree with me that she is the track.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Halpin, for having me and for giving me this opportunity. As you said, I'm going to play a few tunes and talk in between to kind of give you a sense of what you're listening to and how the age kind of affects jazz. So the first thing I'd like to start out with is a spiritual, and I believe that this is really essential to jazz because it is one of the biggest influences to this music. In fact, later on in the program, you're going to hear a few tunes that, even though they're more modern, they still have that bluesy, gospel, spiritual sense about it. So, also one thing is that, for those of you that aren't aware, you're going to hear the melody, just a quick solo, and then the melody again, just to give you the overall form of everything. So I hope you enjoy. This is Precious Lord. So that's kind of the basics of where this music really originated. And moving a little bit forward towards the early 1900s, there begins this form of music called the boogie woogie era, or really early jazz. And as Miss Halpern said earlier, the very big thing about jazz is that it mirrors the time that it's in and the inventions of the day. For instance, a really big one is the train, the invention of the train. If you're familiar with Duke Ellington, you know Take the A Train, or Oscar Peterson with Night Train. So this tune is a tune called Slow Freight, and what you're going to hear is kind of like that rhythm that you get from the train and the whistle, and that's that. So hope you enjoy this. Is Slow Freight. And again, this is like to mimic a whistle. I know it's not really great, but like that type of sound. So, and here's the train rhythm. So. While I was playing that, I was thinking about that left hand, that kind of train rhythm. Thank you. And actually, it also influenced early rock and roll. I don't know if any of you heard that, but although this is really early 1900s music, it affected something that was made, 50 years later. This type of rhythm in rock and roll, you hear like that type of thing. Then the 5/4. So, although it is jazz, it also influences other styles of music as well. And another point that you made is that some people believe that they might not like jazz, or they might not understand it. And the funny thing about jazz is that it's really everywhere. I mean, you walk into Starbucks and you're hearing jazz on the radio, or oftentimes in movies you'll hear jazz and you won't even really realize that you're hearing it. For instance, this one movie, or I guess series of movies I grew up with, really had a jazz soundtrack to it. And, kids dance to it, and I think many people love it, but just don't realize it. So I'll just play like a really quick snippet of this. Hopefully you guys will recognize it. And that's all I'll say about that. So, let's see. And this also kind of has a similar train rhythm to it. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody recognized that, but that was Madison Lucy. That's my childhood. I mean, I grew up on this stuff. So, you know, you're really listening to it without even realizing it, and that's how, I guess, influential it is to American culture and many other cultures as well. This next tune I'm going to talk about just a little bit. It's, I don't know if you would say a Christmas tune, but a holiday tune called Let It Snow, if you know. And it was written in 1945, you know, in California during a winter, well, it was a heat wave, and they were really wishing for snow. And because it's a holiday tune, there's this concept of kind of taking something that's old and not necessarily making it new, but making it your own, which is a big part of jazz and improvisation, is kind of seeing what you can do with a tune. So one thing that I like to do with my parents is, or even my family, is kind of mess around with melodies to trip them up or make them laugh. So with this, I was messing around, and there's this concept of turning something major, which is this type of sound, and making it minor, which is this type of sound. So what I did with this song is I changed the melody from to, which is, I think, more colorful, but anyway. So I made an arrangement out of this, and I used, for the introduction, a tune from the 30s called Minnie the Moocher. If any of you have seen the Blues Brothers, that big ending scene with Cab Calloway, he sings this tune. And also with influences, I was listening to a lot of, you know, Russian and Jewish composers during this time because I found an interest in it. So I guess this arrangement or version of Let It Snow is just a mishmash of everything and all these different influences. So I hope you enjoy. This is Let It Snow with a twist. Oh, also, this is in the style of stride. I forgot to say that. And stride is just your left hand playing a root note and then a chord on top. And it makes this type of stride up the piano, like. So it's that type of style. Anyway, Let It Snow. tune into kind of your own and just messing around with ideas and letting, I guess, creative thoughts flow. And like I said, just like play like a child, just mess around with things. I'm gonna play an original tune for you that is a little hard to describe because it's written as a boogaloo, which doesn't exactly have a definition to it. It's a style of music, but nobody really knows what a boogaloo is necessarily. A definition says a funky bossa nova, which I'll get to after this. But I think it's just kind of a fun tune, and there's no title for it. That's the thing. So I wrote it about 2 years ago, and I still can't figure out a title. If you have any suggestions, maybe you could put it in the chat, which would be greatly appreciated, just for some ideas, I guess. But for right now, it's called Elle's Boogaloo. Thank you. So what I mentioned right before I played that is this term called a bossa nova. And during, I guess, the late 50s, some may say early 60s, we're going to go head over to Brazil now, again, incorporating different cultures. And there were many people, but one in particular, Antonio Carlos Jobim, kind of began this music that infused salsa with American jazz and created this term called the bossa nova. And many jazz musicians love bossa novas. They're very fun, they're very nice to play, and yeah, that's what I have to say about that. It's just infusing different cultures, and this is a tune called Favela. So for those of you that don't know, favela is, I guess, a neighborhood in different parts of Brazil where many people don't have a lot of money or jobs. It's actually up in the mountains. They have kind of houses or walls stacked on each other. So what Jobim did is he wrote this tune, and it's the bittersweet aspect of the favelas, like how you can see the sunrise in the morning and how there's a sense of community. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. This is called Favela. And again, this is a bossa nova. a little bit about how different cultures influence jazz and kind of become their own subcategory. We're going to move a little bit later. I'm actually going to physically move to another instrument. This is a Hammond organ. So, can you hear me okay? Everything's good? Okay. So, this is a Hammond organ. It began as a reduction of the pipe organ. You see this a lot in churches, also in gospel music. And I actually have to turn it on. But you'll notice it sounds kind of like how a car turns on. There's a motor that starts going, so you'll hear that right now maybe. I don't know, but it has to start up and then you switch into a different switch to get it going. And then finally it starts to turn on. So, as I said before, this is part of a continuation of the influence of the church. And the way this works is that there are these things called drawbars on the top, which are things that you pull out and it changes the sound. So as soon as this turns on, like I said, it has to start getting going. So if I play a C and I pull it out, if I have nothing in, there's no sound, which you just saw I was confused about. Once you start pulling out, you have a C, and then overtones, so a G, and then an E, and it creates a chord. So with these, it's a way to manipulate the sound, and we call them settings, kind of pull out anywhere you want in the simplest form and kind of get the sound you want. For instance, if you pull all of them out, you might have heard this from like a... That's an organ. But I'm not going to be using that. So anyway, this was used in a lot of soul jazz, which is from the 60s to 70s kind of era. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. This is Sugar by Stanley Turrentine. to get to turn it off, just to get that humming away. But I heard somebody mention earlier that they were born in Newark, New Jersey. And a fun fact is that Newark is, well, was, but also still is, the organ capital of, I don't know, the East Coast or just America overall, but the Hammond organ and soul jazz is very big here in New Jersey. So that's just a fun fact. Do you have time for two quick ones, or no? One. Yeah? Good? Okay, I'll try to make it short. I don't know, let me just check what time it is. Oh, it is 11:31. Okay, I'll be fast. So, just back with influences, this next song is a Cuban tune that was written in the early 20s. And it was written in the style of a habanera, which sounds kind of like that type of thing. So basically what I did is I took this tune and I kind of shaped it to be my own. I changed the bass line, and I added kind of like a salsa montuno section, which is just a repetitive thing. So anyway, like I said, I'll be short. So this is Si Bonet. Thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, that was a Cuban tune. I'm going to play one last really quick tune because I know you have to get out of here. But once again, thank you so much for having me. And I noticed that you mentioned Shanghai Jazz earlier, which is a fantastic jazz club. We're actually, Trio and I are going to be there on September 9th. If you don't have anything else, the New Jersey Jazz Society doesn't have anything else. We really hope to see you there. There'll be a lot of old tunes, a lot of Latin tunes. So yeah, anyway, thank you again so much for having me. It was an honor. And I'm going to close with one of my favorite tunes called Monin'. And it's kind of full circle. The first tune was like a churchy gospel tune. This is ending with a churchy gospel tune. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, Leonieke, thank you very much. I'm enthused. I'm going to see if I can sneak out of the house on September 9th and see you at Shanghai Jazz.
Oh, please do. You
See if
can.
I can get out of the eagle eye of my wife and sneak down there, but I'll give it a try. Okay, so to tell everybody, Leonieke has a website. Very easy. You got to get the spelling of her name right, though, but
That's
it's
the
on
hardest
the
part.
announcement. LeoniqueScheuble.com. If you want to see her TED Talk, Leonieke Scheuble TED Talks, and there's the TED Talks plus a couple of other things.
Thank you.
And on behalf of the Summit Old Guard, thank you very much. Paul, are you going to pull up the certificate or should I show it?
No, actually, I have 2 certificates.
Yeah, I know. Just bring up one of them.
Sorry, they're together.
Oh, all right. So the Summit Old Guard, I will explain briefly that Summit was the capital of orchid growing in America. And we give certificates like this. They will be sent to both of you. And we are happy to express our appreciation in this way for your participation. Now, do we want to do the clapping now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what we do is we show you an appreciation as follows. Okay, take it away, guys. Okay, and finally, next week, I will be doing do-it-yourself investing. I'll tell you about the 2020 stock market, both the up and the down, financial investing with newsletters, robo-investing, and a discussion. So that's next week, same time, same place. Paul, Bill, you want to wrap it up?
Thanks, Alan, and wonderful program. We're going to take a little break before we reconvene for TUG. How about a 10-minute break?
Can I say thank you? I would like to say
Oh, absolutely, Cydney. Sure.
I would like to say thank you so very much for having us, and thank you so very much for supporting the arts. Obviously, programming like this supports the arts. You can understand why I adore this young woman. Leonieke is so special, and I hope that you guys will find another special artist as well to support. Shanghai Jazz is very safe. It's outside. It's an evening outside. So if that changes how you feel about going, please do that.
And
please,
I will mention, Shanghai Jazz is right in the middle of Madison, New Jersey.
yes. And they have a website as well. And I also would again encourage you to check our website. We have a virtual program on September 20th at 4 p.m. Information will be on our website. It's Dave Stryker, guitarist, doing a tribute to one of his true mentors, a gentleman named Vic Juris, who passed away last year. So there's lots of things to find out. There's lots of ways to support music. The holidays are coming. Buy gift memberships to venues. COVID has decimated the jazz world. So please, please, please help us keep it alive while we can and get it back on its feet. So again, gentlemen, thank you very, very much for having us. Leonieke, thank you so much for being game to play with me today. You're an amazing young woman, and I cannot wait to see what you do. This is a young lady, by the way, who didn't learn to read music till about a year ago. She's still learning. So this is all a gift from God, all a gift from God. So thank you, gentlemen, very much, and have a super, super week and stay safe and healthy.